Good morning, trainers. We've got a special video here today. We're going to go over some power rankings for some new teams that we drafted here for ETA Season 4. I'm joined by two fellow coaches here. Please introduce yourselves.
What's up? I'm no idea. I never won the league, but I always had the MVP. So yeah, pretty suck at playoffs, but overall, yeah.
I am Mike Haley 69, co-admin of ETA. I'm cool or whatever.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, dude.
So yeah, we're just going to scroll down this page and rank all the teams that just got drafted and give them a score on a scale of 1 to 10. And yeah, just talk about them. So the first team that we're going to talk about is actually my team. So I obviously hold a little bit of bias here. I think my team is good, but I'll let the other two coaches talk about what they think of my team and give it a score.
I mean, I definitely agree. It is a pretty good team. I love the logo. I think it's just really tropical, and yeah, I like it. I mean, overall, your team is just so offensive and damn, it just hits like a truck. I mean, especially Anomalous with like contrary superpower. That's just, yeah. Um, I really like what you did with, for example, Sarulege and Slitherwing. Those two just work together, I think. And there are not many things that can really tank a lot of any hits of your team. And I mean, the only flaw that I see personally is that your only like real defense is Gastrodon and Avalok Hisui, which is that's kind of a problem, I think. But I mean, it is still like not that big of a problem. You still have Goodra and a Bolivar, which can take some hits. Your hazard game is also pretty good. So yeah.
And going off what No Idea said, I believe that Mayo's team has really good synergy, especially with some of its main cores, specifically his Fire, Water, Grass core. You mentioned before Silverwing and Cruel Edge, but I believe Arbola and Cruel Edge are a great pair. Literally, Cruel Edge covers both weaknesses of Arbola, fire, ice, fighting. Same for Hisui and Gudra. That thing is an absolute tank. You can call that thing an offensive weapon if you want. I view it more as a defensive threat, quite honestly. It gets a lot of good setup moves, such as Iron Defense, Body Press. It definitely can stay and take some hits.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you really had a good sleeper pick with Mousehold. I think it's like I saw it.
God, I hate that fucking thing.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it on ladder. I played it, and I just think if you don't have a ghost type or good steel type, the game is like pretty much over. It's so fast, and yeah, Mousehold is pretty versatile, especially with like tidy up and all. It's just you're gonna have a lot of fun with that team.
Halfway through the draft, I got a text from Mayo, and all it said was, "You should draft Mousehold."
Yeah.
And I just texted him back, and I said, "No, that thing is literally ass. I don't want it." And he just goes, "You know what? Honestly, I think I kind of want it."
Yep.
And I was so blown away by it because we had conversations, and when I say I think it's ass, I don't truly mean I think it's a terrible book. I just don't think it's as good as everyone it to be, because you see a lot of hype social media with like players using the classic
population bomb.
population bomb set.
Yeah.
And it's just in draft, it's a lot more easy to kind of look at people's Pokemon and get the idea of what type of set they would truly want to bring for your team. And if that is one of your like main go-to sets, it's kind of easy to prep for that. Either having something with Rocky Helmet or a Ghost type or Steel type to kind of take hits from it.
Yeah.
But I think Mayo is a very creative coach with some of its sets, and I believe that there are other things Mousehold could potentially do as actually more of a support Pokemon other than
exactly. I think
a traditional offensive Pokemon.
I think Mousehold is really good. Like Population Bomb is the obvious threat, but I can do a lot of things outside of bringing Population Bomb. I really like
Mhm.
Tidy Up. I think Tidy Up is like actually the best hazard removal move in the game because it's like the only hazard removal move that can't get blocked. Like Rapid Skin can get blocked, and like Defog can get taken advantage of with like Defiant or like Good as Gold. But like Tidy Up, like you just go for Tidy Up and hazards are gone. The opponent can't do anything about it, and it's a free setup. And it's also really good support. I can run Taunt, Super Fang, like so. Don't sleep on mouse holds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Also, my team name Florida Flamigos is very tropical. I really love the tropical theme of my team. I've got Goodra is a snail, Gastrodon is a
Mm-hmm.
slug. Okay, Slitherwing is like kind of also a slug. Overquill is a sea urchin. Okay, and
This
and
is
and Enamorus and Altaria are both clouds. Okay, it's so tropical.
okay.
It's so tropical.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And literally, your draft board was just to go around your logo.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
I should have done a hail team then.
my draft plan was literally to just draft around Hisui and Gudra because that was my first pick. And I thought Enamorus paired very well with it. And then
It does.
I wanted to get Arboliva for the grassy terrain support, which I think
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of synergy with the grassy terrain support on my team. So
Yeah.
I definitely looked at that too. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
I think you have like one of the best offenses in the league. I think the defense really just. I mean, you really need Gastrodon and a Bolivar because a Bolivar with grassy terrain, it just synergizes well, as you said. But I think the defense could maybe hold this team back a little against like um, big wall breakers and all. Like, for example, the next team, Ursaluna, that's going to be a problem. But overall, I'd give it like an 8 or 9 out of 10 because you have like pretty much everything except like a pretty solid defensive core.
I was going to say 2.
8.
Yeah, 8.5. Let's agree on that. 8.5 out of 10.
All right, 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I'll come up to it.
I'll take an 8.5. That I like that. That's good.
All right, welcome to the roast of Mike Haley.
All right, we're gonna move on to the North Pole Iron Bundles. The team of Mike Haley here. So, yeah, I mean, looking at this team's interesting because it's got a lot of threats, and a lot of things you have to think about at prep. So it can do a lot of different things. Like obviously Ursaluna being a big wall breaker, but you also have fast mons like Gengar that you have to make sure you can check, and a couple different setup sweepers like Lucario could be a scary setup sweeper. Dondozo can be a scary setup sweeper, which is kind of a mon that's hard to prep for. I think Dondozo, if used well, is going to be a huge threat because you have to bring like a stall breaker for it, but it also can be a sweeper with Curse. And Grimmsnarl is just like one of the best support Pokemon. So, wall breaking with Ursaluna and setting up with Dondozo and Lucario and stuff like that is going to be that much easier with Grimmsnarl support. And then just like a nice, well-rounded, core with like Arcanine, Appletun. I think it's decent. I think this team's pretty good.
Yeah. I think especially Ursaluna. I mean, I had it in the league, and I had it not with Yuxi, but with Mesprit. It was alleged Arceus League with, where Mesprit had recovered, so that really helped. Um, if I'd be you, Mike, I maybe would have gone for another like 2 or even 3 trick room setters because Ursaluna is just so amazing in the trick room. It's just you can't switch anything into it, and yeah, it just goes through everything. And if you want, you can even set up sword sense or anything, and it's just headlong rush. I mean, this thing is just nuts. And your other mons with Gengar, Cleavor, and Lucario, you just have it covered. You just have there's like nothing that really wants to play the defensive mon against your team because it just knows it's going to get banged. And I mean, you have the water, Snorlax, and Dondozo, and yeah, it's just pretty. The only thing like I see also is no, it's hyper offense, but I mean, Masquerain as your only defogger. I don't know if it's that good. I like Masquerain.
Actually,
yeah.
It doesn't say it on the doc. A little known fact: Weavor is also a defogger.
Yeah, it also gets.
I think it is. Yeah, I'll have to figure out why it doesn't say it here. It should say it here, but Cleavor does get defog.
But I gotta say, Masquerain, overall, I like it in the team. I mean, Sticky Web with Kanga, Cleaver, and Lucario, and even Ursaluna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can switch around between Trick Room and Sticky Web, which is just... Yeah, and Grimmsnarl supports this team a lot. And I like the terrestrialization with Magneton. I mean... Yeah, I mean, I would have gone for Cleaver, maybe. I don't know. Or Lucario, even. I think Magneton is also fine. So, yeah. I like it.
Thank you. Just to kind of make some quick comments about the team. To your point of getting like a Trick Room team, all that. To be quite honest, this was kind of a draft where when it would kind of get to my pick, it's the first time I ever in a season have just been like, I'm just going to pick whatever I want. Like, I had no real plan going into anything. It was kind of just like, wow, I'm surprised this is here. Oh, I'm surprised this is here. And then from there, kind of building off those picks to be like, well, what can I do now to kind of help this team? And I kind of wish earlier I thought about like a Trick Room. Because I believe like if I had like Cresselia or something on this team too, that would be very good.
I mean, I think Uxie's great.
It was really just round 3. I think it was one of those picks where I had a wheel pick. And I was so surprised that Grimmsnarl was still on the board. It had a huge buff with learning Parting Shot now.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, who, like, is nobody going to take this? And I was just like, I have to grab it. Like, I knew I just had to get it on my team. And then from there, I was kind of like, well, what if I paid with someone like Gengar or something? And so I just had a couple little ideas like that. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't thinking of the team as a whole. It was more just like pairing certain things that I liked together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this team definitely has like a ton of like setup opportunity and like sweeping potential. As for like potential weaknesses, like No Idea said, it doesn't have great hazard removal. Like Masquerain Cleaver is like, it's defog, but like I don't think you're always going to want to click defog on Cleavor. You usually want to go for attacks, and you're not going to be bringing Masquerain all the time. You're just not.
Yeah.
And I think it lacks a little bit of speed aside from Gengar. You don't want to be locked into bringing a Scarf Gengar all the time. You do have some priority with Extreme Speed Arcanine, Sucker Punch, Grimmsnarl, Lucario, stuff like that, but I think it's a little bit slow, but you could benefit highly from Trick Room. I think Dondozo is a big sleeper, setup sweeper that people could, not prep for adequately. Same goes for like Lucario, even. So I still think it has a ton of potential if you use it right, but you just got to make sure weaknesses don't get exploited. So I feel like I would give this a good score, but I don't think it's too high. Maybe like 6 or 7.
Yeah. I would go with 7 just for Ursaluna and Dondozo. Those two are just.
Mm-hmm.
I know the rest of the team. It's just the defog, which is like a big problem for me. The speed control, you have that, but it's just the defog. That's just not enough. But Ursaluna carries this team. Like, it just gets through everything, and yeah. So I would go with 7 out of 10.
I'm fine with giving it 7. Okay, so let's move down. So now we got the BeGone, Thot, Kricketot, which is No Idea's team here. And I think this team is actually really good. I definitely would be scared to face this team. he's got 3 Iron Mons, 3 Iron Paradox Mons. Luckily, no electric terrain to abuse them, but we'll see. I think the defensive core between Corviknight and Toxapex is tough, complemented by bulky stuff like Mudsdale and Mesprit. Really makes breaking a defensive core like that hard, and just like hard hitting threats like Iron Thorns and Iron Valiant. I think Terra Iron Jugulis is very scary because that thing gets a lot of coverage moves. You can Terra type it into a bunch of different types. You really don't know which Terra type Iron Jugulis wants to run, and you can make it very matchup dependent. What you Terra it into. And then just like some cheeky support options like Grafai is really nice. Decidueye can do a lot of things. So I think this team is definitely very threatening for sure.
Going off what you said about the Iron Paradox Pokemon, I believe. I think it's unfortunate that Pink Urchin wasn't available or no idea to get, because I believe with that this team would be a serious threat having 3 Cork Drive Pokemon.
Yep.
Also, with your defensive comment, I believe that Decidueye could be added to that list. I'm not sure if it lost Roost or not. I believe it still has Roost.
Yeah, I don't know. It might have. A bunch of things did lose Roost, so.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if it fell to that or not, but with Roost, that thing can be another great defensive Pokemon as well.
Yep.
Also, any team that has Kricketot, I'm gonna give like a solid score because
I love the mascot pick. That's the best mascot pick.
I love the mascot.
Yep.
It's Sticky Weber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even like Tauros is a cheeky threat. Like, it's fast. It can check a lot of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think this team is very threatening on paper. If I try to think about like weaknesses that can be exploited, I think if you don't bring like Encore Grafai, like setup Pokemon could be threatening. Just because like Pokemon are going to want to set up to break like Corviknight and Toxapex, and so I don't know how this team checks a lot of setup sweepers. There's not a lot of priority on this team. So aside from like Prankster Grafai, checking like setup Pokemon could be scary. This team has good hazards and solid hazard removal, I would say, with Corviknight. And I think the speed tiers are solid too. Iron Valiant is like
massive threat.
One of the best like Pokemon at checking. Like you can check so many things with Iron Valiant. It has good coverage. It's got good speed. You can run Life Orb. You can run Specs or Band. You can run Scarf. You can literally run anything on it. So I think Iron Valiant is like insane. I honestly like wanted to ban Iron Valiant because I was worried it was going to be just too strong. Just because like you don't know what it's going to run, if it's going to be physical or special. So Iron Valiant can just like check so many things. And the defensive core is solid. So yeah, I think this team is really good. I would just worry about getting set up on and just keeping the core healthy. That's it really.
Can I say 2 things about what you said? Pink Urchin was not in the plan.
Really?
To be fair,
I thought we all read you like a book.
Iron Thorns. I just picked that up in the grace period because, I think I told you guys already half of the story. I actually wanted Excalibur, and I already managed the points, so I could just pick it up for Iron Treads. But yeah, thanks to Nick. Pink Urchin was never in the plan, and Mayo, I get what you're saying. But for example, in the fight that I had yesterday or the day before that, Toxapex actually.
By the way.
Yeah, thanks. I played pretty bad. I could have 6 out there.
Win, baby.
Yeah, but better differential. But Toxapex with Chilling Water actually set up set down the attack, and I have haste on Toxapex, I think so.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that still helps me a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Toxapex does have haze, so you can't really set up on Toxapex most of the time. But yeah, I think this team has good speed tiers. It's pretty fast, but like if you face a Pokemon that like sets up speed, like a Dragon Dance or a Quiver Dance, you could have trouble checking it because you don't really have a lot of strong priority. And so just that would be the biggest weakness that I would see.
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
But I would rate this team very high. It's at least an 8, at least maybe even a 9.
I was gonna say 8.5. Easily.
Yeah, I mean maybe even a 9 for me because just I think it's solid.
I'd meet you at 9.
You'll meet me at 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair. Thanks, guys.
Oh, you're welcome. You're so welcome. All right, now we're gonna start talking about teams that the three of us didn't pick, so we can all chime in here.
Yeah.
Our fourth coach is the Our Game Smooth Brains, coached by Mr. Sly Robbie. So yeah,
can I just say something?
What do you think of this? Yeah.
I think Sly has one of the best teams right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm absolutely in love with this team. Like, everything about it, I think, is just perfect.
I mean, the only thing that I don't like that much is Brute Bonnet. I just don't like the mod. That's it. But other than that, I mean, he has
Among Us hater. You're an Among Us hater.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, other than that, he has an amazing defensive core. I mean, when you look at his hazards, just what the hell? I mean, look at that. Yeah. Yes.
Just about everything and anything gets something.
Yeah.
It's primarily Mew, Garganacl, Clodsire, Fortress.
Yeah.
And also Mew is just such a great Pokemon. It's a very good first round pick. It is essentially a Swiss Army knife of Pokemon. You can do anything.
Yeah. I think, like you said, like the defensive core on this team is exceptional. Like it's going to be very hard to break a defensive core of like Clodsire, Garganacl, Sylveon, Fortress. Like they all just play so well together. Plus, you add Mew in the mix, and then it just adds a wild card. But I also want to talk about Hisuian Zoroark because I think
speaking of wild cards,
I think that
thing will absolutely fuck with you.
This is the perfect team for Hisuian Zoroark to be on. Because it's so defensive, it's so bulky that you can disguise Zoroark as something bulky and defensive and just dish out a ton of damage. And so I think Hisuian Zoroark is great. And I also love Palmot because Palmot has a Revival Blessing. So he can disguise Zoroark, he can get a ton of damage off of Zoroark, and he can Revival Blessing Zoroark later. And I think Zoroark and Palmot have like a ton of synergy. They're, ghost fighting is like really good synergy. So I love those two offensive mons on this team. I think it's great.
Yeah. I think something that you don't recognize at first is Clawitzer. This is also like a bit of a sleeper pick because when you look at its ability and its special attack, this thing just goes through walls. Yeah, and I really like that. I mean, if you place this thing specs, it's I mean, that's gonna help him a lot. The only thing that I see now is he has to watch out that teams just don't go all in with special defense against him because his physical offense is it's maybe Palmot, I think, and Garganacl.
I mean, he does have Brute Bonnet too. I think Brute Bonnet can be a good physical.
The thing gets good priority with Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch is always
great. True.
E-Bomb.
And Spore.
It's Crunch, I believe.
Spore is great.
Spore.
And I think the Terra on Brute Bonnet is also really nice too. I think it's a great mon Terra because Grass Dark is not a great defensive typing, but if you Terra it, then it can be very bulky and it can fit. He can really make it fit into his defensive core. It still has Synthesis, I'm pretty sure. So I think a Terra Brute on it is really good. Yeah, I think this team is great. Clawitzer is a good wall breaker. Um, and yeah, he has a lot of flexibility with Mew. So I think this team is good.
Yeah, I mean, we all saw what happened last season when I had Mew, especially in the finals. That was, I mean, if he runs that set against anything, I'd be pretty happy. Um, yeah. So, what would you give this team?
I'd give it a 9.
Yeah.
Nines. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with giving it a 9. I'm trying to think of weaknesses that it has. Um, but I don't really have much. I mean, it's going to be hard to set up. You have to break the defensive core somehow, but it's going to be hard to set up because he has unaware Clodsire. There's good speed with Palmont and Zoroark, and then throw Talonflame in the mix when he needs more speed, and I think he's good. So yeah, I think if played well, this team is great. The one thing that I would say, just to try to find weaknesses, is his defensive core is good, but he doesn't have a lot of setup potential outside of Mew. So he could potentially get outstalled by another defensive core if an opponent builds very defensively versus his team. So I just worry that he won't be able to break stall back. But he does have Garganackle, so we'll see.
Yeah, I think we'll just see how this team plays out. But I mean, to be fair, I would even give him a 9.5. Like, we don't find a lot of weaknesses, and the only thing is like against stall or other good defensive cores. So I would give him a 9.5.
I'm fine with that. Okay, 9.5. Damn.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move down. We've got the Arkansas Araquanids, coached by Nickinator.
I mean, you already can see Excalibur 6 kills. That already says it.
Let's pretend week 1 hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
but
I think I take that back.
yeah, we have to replay the match. No, but I think it's just Excalibur is like. I mean, I wanted this thing because of that. It can set up without getting burned, which is just. Yeah, he has great Tusk with Headlong Rush and Rapid Spin and all. It's amazing. Hoopa with the Terrestrialization is probably, in my opinion, one of the best things to have it on. So, yeah, and I like this defensive core with Slowbro, Wushion, Florges, which I don't know if you have it in the dock, but I think it doesn't learn default anymore. I think that's just, but yeah.
Really? Okay.
I mean, besides that, I really like this team. And Electros, I like even more now because it has close combat and just, yeah.
Electros is nice, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this team has a good defensive core too. Like you said, Slowbro, Wochian, and Florges are nice. Combine them with Great Tusk, and I think it's really good. Like the synergy with the Great Tusk there is great. And obviously Baxcalibur is a huge threat, but also Basque Legion. Basque Legion is really good with adaptability. I'm pretty sure it has Aqua Jet or Shadow Sneak. It has some form of priority. Last Respects is banned, but like I don't think that matters. Like adaptability, Basque Legion is still so good, and it's bulky, so that thing's a huge threat. And I think the Terra Hoopa is excellent too because it gets a ton of coverage moves. You can really Terra it into whatever type you want, and so I think the Terra Hoopa is nice there. So yeah, I think this team is good. It's got some cheeky low tier threats too, like Revavroom and Cloth that can set up. I feel like that could be sneaky good. So yeah, I mean, I think this team is pretty solid.
I think Bombardier is such a sleeper thing. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have the greatest stats, but if you look at its support moves, I mean, this thing gets staff rods. It's just like Mandibus.
It also gets parting shot.
Yeah, it also gets like Mandibus, a bit weaker, but with more status moves. moves. Like, I mean, especially staff rocks. That's just amazing in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Bombardier is just not that good, but it can bring some extra support to his team. I do like what you said about Electros. I do think Electros is one of those Pokemon that's like kind of hard to prep for. You can't really prep for it because it has so much coverage.
Absolutely.
It has so much coverage and no weaknesses. It's just something you have to deal with. So I think Electros is great on a team like this. He can really bring it whenever he needs to, just to hit stuff for damage.
Just about any time I've ever built for a team that has Electros on it, I always have difficulty because it is just one of those Pokemon that's very hard to prep for.
Yeah.
Like, you have to get very creative with what you're going to do to kind of build around.
Yeah. And I think Electros, if you look at it, it's like with Volt Switch, it's just amazing. I mean, it can bring in Baxcalibur, Great Tusk, or Hooper, or even Basculegion, which, yeah, it's just, this thing is is a key to this team's success, I think.
Yeah, I think the defensive core is really solid on this one too. I mean, Florges can wish around, Florges can wish pass. Slowbro has a regenerator. So that's all good support for Great Tusk, and then Wotian is solid too with Leech Seed. Ruination is just great for wearing stuff down, and then you just play the defensive game and then get a setup opportunity with something like Baxcalibur, or get Basculegion in or Hoopa in and start doing damage, and it's really good if he plays it well.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
I do think a weakness though is that he doesn't have a lot of immediate speed. Like, none of his speed tiers are even like over 100, which I think is not good. Because if you want to immediately check something that's fast, you have to run Scarf on something. And I don't think he has a lot of priority moves either, or at least strong priority moves, aside from Basculegion, I guess. So,
and Baxcalibur gets Ice Shard, so
it does.
that's
Okay.
something about.
But yeah, I mean, if you're running Ice Shard Baxcalibur, it's not the best move to be running on a Dragon Dance set anyway. So, I do think the speed on this team is a significant weakness, despite all of its good defense and setup potential.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, the speed is going to be a big problem. I mean, he can't really revenge something that's like with a mon that's not scarfed. So, and then you have to sacrifice power for speed, and that's just, yeah. I mean, yeah. But still, it's the pretty solid team. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I give it a 7.5.
Yeah,
I agree.
I was thinking like 7. Well, we can go 7.5.
Yeah, I mean, 7.5, he still has a pretty good defensive core, and his offense is just, find something for it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Great Tusk and Basculegion are just so good, and then Baxcalibur is a huge threat. Like, prepping for all that offense is a nightmare, plus worrying about breaking the defensive core is a lot to worry about, so I agree, for sure.
And then I think Hoopa with Ion Jugulis is like one of the best mons for terrestrialization. So, yeah.
It is, yeah. I mean, it has a special attack stack of 150. Like, let's not forget.
And its physical attack isn't that bad either.
Yeah, and so it can really do a lot, for sure.
Yeah.
And it gets good coverage. So I think Hoopa is a sneakily a big threat on this team, for sure. But yeah, let's move down. Let's move down to the Carolina Kuribohs, coached by Super Bench, Digimon Player 01. This team is a Digimon, not a Pokemon. But what do you guys think?
Actually, Kuribohs is a Yu-Gi-Oh!
Is it? Are you serious? Oh my god. We should kick him out. That's whack.
There you go.
Oh, holy crap, Lois. Alright.
As far as like offensive threats go, I think this team's got plenty of them. It Annihilate. You look at Gambit. You get things like kind of sleeper picks such as the Dunsparce, Noivern. It has really good support with Cresselia. It's getting good support with Carbink, the sticky whips from Spytops.
Mm-hmm.
I think a key for this team, especially for the offense, I mean, Annihilate and King Gambit, no question. Yeah, but I think Glimora is probably the biggest piece for this team because, I mean, Knock Spikes, it's just, yeah. I mean, the defense lacks a bit. Like, I mean, Cresselia is like, yeah, that's his only like real good defensive one. I like Noivern with the terrestrialization.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I'd say that Glimora just amazing for Annihilate, Noivern, and King Gambit.
Yep.
That's just.
I also think Cresselia and King Gambit are a great pair too. Cresselia, King Gambit, and Annihilate, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of good fighting dark psychic cores out there, and this is definitely one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree completely with what you said about Glimora. Like, it's just so easy for Glimora to get up Toxic Spikes because of its ability, Toxic Debris. Mm-hmm. And you have Annihilate and King Gambit, the two biggest threats on this team, both have Defiant. So you just can't defog on this team. It's so hard to
yeah.
And look at all the hazards. This is the longest hazard list out of any team. And, like, you can't bring defog versus this team because the two most scary offensive threats have Defiant. So I think that's like that's insane.
You can bring defog, but then you'll just die. That's it.
Exactly. So I think that's really good. Like it just makes something like Spydops like fit so good on this team. Like, I think Spydops fits really nicely on this team. Like, obviously, like Annihilate and King Gambit, like you don't want them to get set up, and but I think Cresselia, like you're saying, is like the perfect support Pokemon to support those two threats because it can set up screens. It's a bulky psychic type. It has Levitate to support
also,
King
don't
Gambit.
Sleep on Cresselia. It can be a good offensive Pokemon.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
too.
and Calm Mind Cresselia too, for sure.
If that thing starts calm minding, it can get really scary really quick.
For sure. Yeah, like there's a lot of pieces on this team that just fit really well together, and I like that a lot. I don't know how well this team can play the long game, though. That's my concern, because, like, he has stuff he can pivot around, like Rotom-Mow and Donphan and Noivern, but they don't really have reliable recovery. So, you know,
I believe it's U-turn as well.
Yeah. But I don't think there's a ton of reliable recovery on this team outside of Cresselia, so I think if he doesn't get a setup opportunity and gets stalled out and you just wait this game out, then this team could struggle. But I'm just trying to think of weaknesses. I think this team is really threatening on paper to prep for, just because of the situation with all the hazards and just the scary setup sweepers that it has.
Yeah, I think that especially hazard control, if you don't really have good hazard control, which is the case for some teams, you just don't really have an option against this team because, like, King Gambit with Sucker Punch just goes through your team then, or Annihilate, doesn't even matter. And the Volturn combination between Rotom and Noivern is just so good. I mean, on Noivern, for example, I had to bring in Toxapex, and Noivern just U-turns out into Rotom and forces me out again. It's just, I mean, it's kind of foolproof, so, I like this team a lot.
Yeah, I think the Terra Normal Noivern is really good. Like, you can just run Terra Normal Boom Burst, and that's really scary. Don't sleep on the Terra Normal.
Terra steals. That's just about like every single one of its weaknesses.
Yeah, and then it becomes a good support Pokemon too.
Resist rocks. You resist fairy.
You know, a nice support pivot Noivern with, like, you know, U-turn, taunt, roost, whatever. Like Terra Steel could be really good. for sure. Um, but yeah, I think this team is extremely threatening on paper to prep for. Its main weaknesses is like I don't know how well it can play a long battle. I don't think it can play the long game. I think it could get stalled out if it doesn't get a setup opportunity. But other than that, like I think there's just so many things you have to worry about prepping this team. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would give it a 7.5. It's just it has a lot of good things going for it with the staff rocks and the toxic spikes, but as you said, the long game just with Annihilate and King Gambit, you can't go in and just threaten everything because they have to get a bit of setup to like kill anything that comes in their way, and that's kind of a problem for them. But other than that, and I mean, yeah, but if you can get around that, I think it's gonna be one of the best teams. But still, the defense and that holds it back. So I think 7.5.
Yeah. I mean, I think as long as you're thinking 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking like 7. I mean, I think as long as the opponent can tiptoe around this team and not give Annihilate or King Gambit a setup opportunity, I think it can be worn down. If they're not weak to hazards and they maintain the hazard game. Because aside from hazards and setup, this team I don't think has too much going for it. But I still think it's scary to prep for. If the
we
team's
all
not
meet in the
prepared.
middle and go 7.5.
Yep, 7.5. Okay, cool. So let's go to CCP.
Oh yeah.
So this is the glorious Gliscors, coached by It's Always CCB. So I think this is a really good team. I think this is one of the best teams. What do you guys think?
I agree. I really like Chen Pao, Cinderace, fast heavy hitters. Then you have some sneak picks like the Decidueye, Hisuian, I think is really good. King Lu is another great defensive Pokemon. Rotoms are always great fits on teams. They offer so much versatility. It's a shame they lost Defog on some of the forms, but it's still pretty good even without Defog, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he took Rotom from me. That was one that I wanted, so I'm pretty mad. But overall, I mean, the offense with Xian Pao and Cinderace is that's gonna work. Yeah, let's put it like that at the defensive core. Slowking, Vaporeon, and Ting Lu, especially with Vaporeon setting up Wish. And I think Braviary with the terrestrialization is just amazing.
Yep.
And something that I just noticed, I think Klefki really helps this team a lot with like the screens and all, because I mean Xian Pao and Cinderace are not the bulkiest monster, they can't take that many hits, but the screens are gonna help them. I don't see. I mean, look at his hazard control. I mean, there are some things. I mean, a lot of things lost Defog, I think.
I realize my hazard control lists are not updated to the stuff that lost defog, but
lying to the people.
Rotom doesn't have defog. It's fine.
But still, I think this team is awesome.
Yeah, I think this team is really good too. Like obviously, like Chin Pao and Cinderace, like is just so hard to prep for because they're both fast physical attackers, but they just like their combined coverage just hits everything, right? Like fire and ice, like you can't bring one thing to deal with both Chin Pao and Cinderace. It's just really hard to deal with both, to prep for both of those, because they just have so much coverage between them. And then I think the defensive core on this team is also really good. Like Ting Lu is just one of the best defensive Pokemon in the game, I think, and combined with Vaporeon to be able to get Wish support to heal Ting Lu back up, because Ting Lu's biggest weakness is that it has no reliable recovery. It's insanely bulky, and is great support with like Ruination, Stealth Rock, but it gets worn down. But if Vaporeon can pass a wish into Ting Lu, then it's going to be so hard for teams to take it down. And Ruination is great because then it just weakens stuff for Cinderace and Chien-Pao. Combine it with Slowbro Galarian Slowbro to pivot around stuff. I think it's great. And like you said with Klefki, just like providing that support when needed, I think Klefki's a great fit for this team. And then he just has extra sneak stuff like Hisuian Braviary is great, Hisuian Decidueye is great. So yeah, I think this team is fantastic.
One thing that I just noticed, which now that I think about it, is going to be a problem. Asta Frogs, I mean, look at it. Chien-Pao, Scyther, Braviary, Oricorio, Cinderace, and his defensive core. Because if we update the list, I mean, Rotom doesn't have Defog, Klefki doesn't have Defog. I don't know if Oricorio has, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're usually running Defog anyway on Oricorio.
Might still have it, but I mean, then you'll be left with like Komala, Scyther, and Port Change on Cinderace, which is just, you don't want to run that. So I think this is going to be a problem for this team because, as you said, Ting Lu is pretty bulky, but Starfrox still does a good amount of percent, so I think he's going to struggle with that. If someone plays Dazzle game right against him, he can break the defensive core and pick apart the mons one by one and win the game. That's it. But other than that, if he gets the rocks away, I don't really see a lot of options. But if he doesn't, I mean, look at how many mons are rocks weak. That's just a big problem for him. I mean, he can't run boots on everyone.
That's definitely a good point. Like, you can run heavy-duty boots, but you don't want to be running heavy-duty boots on stuff like Chien-Pao and Cinderace. You want to be running, like, something offensive, like Life Orb or whatever. So Stealth Rock can definitely wear this team down. I agree. That's a good point. So, I mean, playing a good Hazards game would definitely be key versus this team, but aside from that, I don't think it has a lot of weaknesses. I think, you want to try to set up on this team if you can to break Ting Lu, Vaporeon, Slowbro, or Slowking. But, he does have some priority with stuff like Cinderace and Chien-Pao, so you got to be careful. And Klefki, too. Klefki can shut down and set up opportunity as well, so... I think it's great. It does have some weaknesses, but overall, I think this team is great.
Yeah. If I had to rate it, I mean, I would give it an 8.5 because of the Stealth Rocks. That's just without the Stealth Rocks weakness, like it's just so many mods, and especially his offense needs it relies on a good hazard control, and this team just isn't really helping with that. The mons are not that amazing. You don't want to run Porchange on Cinderace, so I think that brings this team down to an 8 or 8.5, but it still is pretty good.
Yeah, I can agree with 8.5.
I was going to say 8.
You think it's just an 8? I think we go 8.5. Two 8.5s, 1 8. Okay. All right, let's move on to the Gracious Goodras here. The Gracious Goodras, coached by Lil Grill. I think this team is interesting. I think this is one of those teams I don't quite know how I feel about it. It does have a lot going for it, but I'm just not sure about it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Mike, go on.
Okay. Jeez. Was very ill prepared to start this. Okay, well, I guess to start off, Iron Bundle is a solid first round pick. That thing has a lot of speed, a lot of special attack. It offers some flip turn, I think it gets. I was going to say U-turn, but I think it's flip turn.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get a lot of momentum off of it. It also has a lot of good setup Pokemon with Skelleridge. Don't sleep on Rillaboom. It's one of those Pokemon that got kind of nerfed, but it's still pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get Grassy Glide anymore, unfortunately, so it can't take advantage of terrain as much, but it can still run like Swords Dance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I like the defense with Umbreon and Earthworm and Lando. One thing that I see now, he has like 3 flying types, and his hazard control it's literally Hawlucha and Drifblim, which is just that's kind of unacceptable. Like a team that has Iron Bundle.
He does have a 2.
Yeah, but Iron Bundle and Skeledridge are like one of the they're the best things in my opinion in this team. Like and Stealth Rocks just completely with Umbreon and Earthworm, which need to switch around a lot. This is not going to help, and I think although Hawlucha and grassy terrain, that is a thing. To be fair, it's been around since 5 years. Everybody knows how to counter it now. I don't think that Hawlucha is that good in draft. One thing that I really like is Slaking. I would have actually taken it if there was Kofa so you can mummy and then just get in Slaking, hit them on, get rid of your ability.
Yeah, Slaking is a good sleeper pick. Like, quite honestly, it's one of those Pokemon I always see never get picked. Tron is such a player issue.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you ever just run Choice Band on that thing, you could easily punch some holes into someone's, Pokemon.
I do think Slaking is a good D-tier pick, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I once wanted to make a Sableye with Slaking. Like, player of Choice Band, it just went through Mega Sableye. So Slaking has a lot of potential. But I think the Stafford weakness is just, and it's not like with Glorious Gliscors where you can say, but he has a solid defensive core that doesn't that can also maybe get the hazards off. And no, this team just doesn't. You don't want to bring Drifblim that much, and you don't want to bring Hawlucha every battle. And if you bring it, you want to bring it as an offensive one and not with default.
Yep, for sure.
So,
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. I think this team is hazards weak, especially Stealth Rock, Iron Bundle and Skeledurge. Usually Skeledurge will run heavy duty boots, but still, you don't want hazards, wearing down your team like that. Also, I just want to point out the fact that the Gracious Goodras and the Glorious Gliscors sound so similar. I think it's funny.
They do.
But I mean, this team is still solid. It's got Landorus T, which is always going to be Landorus T. It's always going to be a threat. I think Goodra is really good, combined with the grassy terrain support from Rillaboom.
I like the cheeky boardroom as well.
I think grassy terrain helps this team a fair amount. Healing up stuff like Skeledurge. But yeah, I mean, like you said, the Stealth Rock weakness, I feel like this team can easily get worn down and stalled out. It doesn't have a lot of setup outside of potentially Hawlucha. I guess Skeledurge is one of the biggest threats on this team, but I think if a team is well prepared for Skeledurge and can check Iron Bundle reliably, then, this team isn't too bad. This team isn't too hard to prep for. I think it's manageable.
Yeah, but I think till now it's been it's not as good as the other teams that we ranked so far. So I would give it I don't know, a 7 or a 6.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say 6. 5.
I think 6.5. Okay.
6.5. We can go 6.5. I think it still has threats,
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah.
it's manageable to beat.
Mm.
Let me do 6.5. All right, let's move down to the Texas Toucannons, coached by Sherry Davis.
Classic Sherry Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I think this is an interesting team. I think this team is actually pretty threatening. It's rain. It's got Pelipper. So it's got Pelipper, Barraskewda. Kilowattrel benefits a lot from rain. I think Kilowattrel on its own is a decent mon, but I think Kilowattrel in rain is very good. But then it doesn't have to run rain every week. That's what I like about it, is that it can still function as a non-rain team really well with Garchomp and Goldengo. I think Garchomp and Goldengo are great together. And another water Pokemon in Hisui and Samurott, which benefits from rain but also can be a threat outside of rain, is really good. So this team definitely has a lot of threats, but I also think, it lacks a little bit of a defensive backbone outside of like Chestnut and Pelipper. And Avalugg. Avalugg as a Terra Captain is decent, but aside from that, it lacks a little bit of a defensive backbone, but it still has a lot of threats. So, what do you guys think?
I think I agree with you that it has a lot of threats, but I think Avalugg, although it's a decent one, I mean, come on, you would have if I'd be him, I'd be given the terrestrialization to Meloetta or Kilowattrel, because Meloetta has so many different moves, and to get stab on that, amazing. And Kilowattrel, I mean, a Thunder in rain with electric terrestrialization, I mean, that's just, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the defense at all. I think Chestnut, Pelipper, and Avalugg, that just doesn't really synergize that well. And I mean, his steel type is, he has Goldengo as steel type, but then I don't get the Tinkaton. I like the design. I like the, what is it, Gigaton Hammer?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Mon is just, it's not more wild, it's not mega more wild, it's just something in between that, in my opinion, doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It has very decent speed. It could potentially be a Scarfer. It's so lacking in power. It only has base 75 power.
Yeah.
Even with a choice band, I guess you can click Kricketot on him and do some damage, but if you have anything that's like bulky, resistant to steel, it's not going to make a world of difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tinkaton's not bad if you set up a Swords Dance and go for Gigaton Hammer, but like this team already has Goldengo, which is like arguably one of the best steel types available. So like if you want to bring a good steel type, I feel like you just bring Goldengo and click Make It Rain. I don't think Tinkaton fits on this team that well. I also don't think Tatsugiri fits on this team well at all. I mean, you already have 3 water types that are playing off rain, and I think it's just redundant to throw Tatsugiri in there. It doesn't. I mean, sure, it can go for strong water moves and dragon moves, but I don't think Tatsugiri fits this team at all. I think it's a wasted slot. I think they could get better things from the C tier than Tinkaton
I mean,
or Tatsugiri.
He could throw both of those mons out. Could get a solid B tier mon and then like one okay thing in D, and that would just help this team even more.
Mm-hmm.
And Goldango is so good. I mean, it rivals Aegislash as the best ghost steel type, which is, I mean, that says something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's right up there.
Yeah, but like, just an amazing Pokemon.
Yeah.
What would you guys rank this team?
I want to give it like a middle of the road 7. I think it's scary.
I was gonna say 7.
Like, obviously, like, it's got Barraskewda in the rain. It's fast. Like, Kilowattrel and Barraskewda, you have to have a game plan for rain, but you also have to game plan for Goldengo. You have to be able to kill Garchomp. I mean, Swords Dance Garchomp is still a threat. So Garchomp can provide good support now with hazards too. A rough skin Rocky Helmet Garchomp is still good. So I think this team has a lot of stuff going for it, but I think it lacks a strong backbone, like a defensive core, like we were saying. I think stuff doesn't make sense, like Tinkaton and Tatsugiri. So yeah, I think it's just middle of the road. I think it's threatening, but it's not like as long as you prep well for the offensive threats, then you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I would give it a 7 or 7.5 if Meloetta or Kilowattrel had the terrestrialization. But I mean, I get Avalok, it can switch into like a fairy type or I don't know, ground, steel, whatever. But that's just wasted potential, so I'll agree with Mike. 6.5 is solid.
Oh, I said 7.
Oh, 7, yeah. Nah, I'll go with 6.5. It's just a bit wasted potential, and he could just do some things better.
All right, let's go with 7. I like 7.
Okay.
Okay, let's move down. Now
Can I
yeah
start with this team?
yeah the Phantom Meowscaradas by Fort Waluigi.
Yeah.
Wait, Christian.
I already played him, so I know I worked a bit with this team, and
I hate to interrupt.
Yeah.
Can we cut this out of the video? I have to go unload a bed frame from my girlfriend's brother's truck.
All right. Will it take long? I mean, we can just talk about this and then you can come back.
It won't take that long. I just have to bring him into the house.
That's fine.
So this is just like a short intermission.
Go do your thing. It's fine.
Yeah. All right. I'll be right back.
He'll be back. I'm not cutting anything out of this video. You think I'm editing?
Elevator music over this.
I'm not editing this, so it's fine.
Yeah. Should we just
go ahead.
On or wait for him?
No, just keep going. Just keep going.
Okay. It's not personal, but this team is one of the worst teams I ever saw. Like, it has nothing going for it. There are 3 months that kind of work. I mean, Meowscarada, Rotom, and Torn, and the rest of the team is just, it's terrible. Like, Rotom and Torn don't have defog anymore, so that's already one negative thing about this core.
Yeah.
But those three months can switch around, chip some defensive, but yeah, that's around it. I mean, what is he going to sweep with? Gallade? Come on, yeah. Glass Fryer, okay, maybe, but you don't really have a good Trick Room team or even a good Trick Room setup, so that thing is off the board. And Mimikyu, I mean, maybe in early Gen 7 that would have worked, but by now everybody knows how Mimikyu works, and the ability is nerfed. It just has nothing going for it. Hazard removal is more than a joke. I mean, Toadscrew, not only is Toadscrew not a relative, I mean, I don't like Toadscrew, but like that's his only rapid spinner, and that's kind of sad. He has 2 fairies, so that's why I don't get why he picked the X-Bun. There are way better options in the C tier. So X-Bun is just a fairy Arcanine that doesn't know what to do. I mean, I don't get what it does. Then for some reason, his last 3 picks are just don't make any sense. Scovillion, I like them all. Yeah, I think in Sun, it can do a lot of things. But you already have 2 grass types, and there are way better fire ones. Also in Seeker, for example, Delphox. Yeah, it's not the best one, but wait, you have a psychic type in the late. Yeah, but still, fire type, it's just, yeah. And Sneasel Hisui, I just don't get that at all. I don't like them on. I think it's worse than normal Sneasel, and Arcabax doesn't make sense at all for me. So, I think this is probably the worst team in the league. And if I had to rate it, I would give it like a 3 or 4 because outside of Meowscarada, Rotom, and Torn, it has nothing going for it. Sorry, man.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with everything you're saying. I think the few things that this team does have going for it is Meowscarada and Torn are fast and offensive threats that you have to prep for. And Rotom is a nice defensive pivot, but I mean, outside of that, you're kind of right. There isn't much of a defensive backbone to this team. Toad Scroll is a little bit of a crutch, being the only hazard removal, and it has a 4 times ice weakness, which if you keep track, Tornadus and Meowscarada are also weak to ice, so it's kind of weak to ice types. And yeah, like you're saying, I mean, a lot of stuff just don't fit on this team. I agree that Dash Bun, just it's just not that good. There's better fairy types out there, and you already have Mimikyu, so I don't even think they need another fairy type. To be honest, I think Dash Bun is kind of awkward on this team. I think Scovillain only fits well on some teams. I think there's better fire types, like you said, Delphox. I mean, even Houndoom, even though you have 2 dark types. I think Scovillain doesn't make sense. I also think Hisuian Sneasel doesn't make sense. I mean, I don't think it's as good as regular Sneasel, to be honest, because it doesn't have priority. And you already have a good fighting type in Gallade. Like, Gallade is a really solid fighting type. If they wanted a poison type, they should have got maybe a more bulky poison type that can provide more support. Hisuian Sneasel is just a weak offensive Pokemon, and I don't think it's very threatening. And Arctibax is just bad. Arctibax is just not good. It's just not fully evolved with Baxcalibur, and it doesn't have good stats. It's not threatening at all. If they wanted a nice D-tier dragon type, they should have gotten like Sliggoo. I think Sliggoo with Eviolite is bulky and has good coverage.
That would actually help him. But do you know, I don't know if you noticed, but he doesn't even have a steel type.
Yeah.
No steel type.
I think every team should have a steel type. Every team needs a steel type.
I mean, I once had a team without a steel type, that worked kind of, but only because it was like hyper offense, no backbone at all, just Dragapult, Hooper. You just go through everything.
Yeah.
But like in defense, you can't do anything.
I think this team needs some work. I think Glastrier is a good Terra Captain. I think Ice. It's a very bulky Pokemon and with a strong attack. And because Ice is not a good defensive typing, it allows Glastrier to Terra into like a bunch of different types. It can Terra into Steel. It can Terra into Ground. It has good coverage, and so it becomes a pretty significant threat with terrestrialization. But its speed is just so slow, and like you said, there's no trick room. I think if this team made a few free agency transactions, it could be a lot better. But right now, it just doesn't have any sort of backbone. It has a lot of stuff on there that is just useless and doesn't provide anything to the team.
And I think the Glastrier, I mean, it's not the best Terra Captain, but what else is going to have terrestrialization? Like, nothing else is really benefiting from it. So, but I agree. He needs to do some free agency picks and maybe help this team. Like, the last 3 months down here are just wasted capital space. He could get, like, an A-tier mon even for those picks. So, yeah, I would... I don't know. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think this team has a couple threats, but it has blatant weaknesses that can be easily exploited, and it has a lot of useless stuff sitting on the roster that aren't really going to contribute much, and you don't need to worry about prepping for. So, for that case, I do agree. I think it's unfortunately one of the worst teams. And maybe like 4 out of 10.
I would give it a 3. So, meet in the half, 3.5.
We can go 3.5. When Mike comes back, we can let him comment if he wants. We'll see what he has to say, but right now we'll leave it at 3.5.
I'm sorry, but I mean, like, literally, Meowscarada, Rotom, and Torn are the only things that saved this team. So
yeah. I mean, I think Meowscarada is great. I think Torn is great, even though it doesn't have defog. But
it's still Torn.
About me, I'm back.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Oh, he's back.
So we basically agreed that the Phantom Meowscaradas are like a 3.5, like they're bad. But what do you think about this team?
Holy shit! I come back and you guys are just like, yeah, this team's a 3.5. You know what? I'm not even gonna. I'll just agree with you. I'm just gonna trust it because apparently you guys have been going off.
What? Give us your thoughts though. I want to hear you talk about this team.
Okay, give me a second to kind of look over it real quick. Your only hazard control is Toadscruel. Your hazards are from Meowscarada, which you'll never really run Toadscruel. Okay, so Toadscruel is your entire hazard game. I guess it's... Where is it? It's Sneak Specially thick, and you pair that with, like, Bulky Regenerator Tornadus T. Meowscarada is a good offensive threat. Blade gets sharpness now, which is a pretty good buff. I don't really understand the terrestrialization for Glaciary. I guess you can, like, Terra Ghost to prevent any, like, fighting moves.
Yeah, but what else is he going to get the Terra Captain on? I mean, only B tier and OI. So.
And then you have Arc Backs and Sneasel Hisui. Sneasel Hisui, I guess, isn't that bad. It actually has solid attack and good speed, so you could run, like, Choice Band or Scarf with it. And its signature move, Dire Claw, is pretty good. Artabax, though, I've no idea what's good with that. I guess you run Evilite, but
yeah, I don't.
Then you can't run heavy duty boots to prevent 25 damage from rocks.
Yeah, I don't think you can do anything with Artabax, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about how the last 3 Pokemon on this team just don't fit it at all.
Yeah.
But
I like Scovillain personally as a Pokemon, but I do believe I don't really think it has much synergy with this team. It's not abusing Sun. I guess you can run Moody if you want to be crazy, but that's not always a guaranteed work kind of thing.
I mean, Moody is legal, but I don't think it's good.
Yeah. I think it's just funny. He has 3 grass types, no steel type at all, and 2 fairies. So this team just
yeah. Let's just move on. Do you agree with the 3.5 though? What would you rate it?
I would say like 4. So I guess I'll meet you at 3.5.
Okay, let's just move on. So let's go to the Winnipeg Dragapults, coached by Yasha. This team is interesting. I don't think I've formed a strong opinion on this team yet. I think it has a lot going for it offensively, but I don't really see much at all going for it defensively. I think it's very much hyper offense. And so sure, it's good at hyper offense, but that's kind of a one trick thing, and as long as the opponent can check all of the offense, then what else do you have? So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think
I agree. It's definitely pretty offensive. You look at some of the really fast things on this team, such as Dragapult, which is always a great fast offensive threat, whether physical or special. You also have Sneasler. We were just saying Sneasel Hisui has the good signature move, Dire Claw. It also gets a lot of other things, such as like close combat. It gets U-turn. It's Night Slash for coverage for psychic type Pokemon. So I think those are 2 very good offensive threats. The only real offense this team has is, I guess, Special Hatterene and then Unaware Quagsire, which I guess helps with preventing setup sweepers because you also have Ditto. So if anything tries to set up, you can switch into Ditto.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Overall, though, I don't think you can really rely too heavily on these things because their weaknesses could be exploited, and then it's just a
sure.
matter of having bulky Pokemon to deal with their fast physical Pokemon.
I think I don't get some picks with this team. I mean, he already has a ghost type, so why pick Mismagius? He already has uh, one of the best fighting types with Sneasler, so why Flamigo? Um,
hmm
and one thing that so those are two, like, for me, personally, wasted picks. He could have gotten something way better.
hmm
Um, but I think, like, the one thing that I just don't get at all is Pinkerton and Raichu. Like, yeah, in the Fury, it could work, but there are so many teams with at least one of the Paradox Pokemons, like the Iron Pokemons, that just benefit from the electric terrain. And I mean, the team doesn't have a lot of defense, so why even help them? So against half of the teams, you can't even bring a Pinkerton, or you'll just shoot yourself in the foot. And this just limits the team with the team building. I don't. I mean, Sauceberg won't come that often, and Berserker is just going to come when he like needs a steel type. So
yeah,
and that is a problem because he kind of relies on Ditto um, to come every week to check a lot of offensive Pokemons,
hmm
and I just don't think that is the way to go. Um, yeah, so that's kind of a problem.
yeah. I agree definitely with what you're saying. I think I agree with like Miss Magius kind of being a wasted pick. Like Dragapult is just outclasses Miss Magius in almost every way. So when is this person ever going to bring Miss Magius when they can just bring Dragapult? Same thing with Flamigo. I mean, it can do a little different stuff than Sneasler with like Brave Bird, but Sneasler is just faster and stronger than Flamigo. So Flamigo is a little bit of a wasted pick too. I think if they got some better Pokemon than Miss Magius and Flamigo, this team could be really good. I don't think Berserker is a good Steel type. I think they could have gotten a better Steel type. I don't know why they picked it so early either. I mean, they have already a lot of good offense on this team. I think they need a little bit more support for it. I would have loved to see like something like Klefki on this team. That would have been really good. We haven't talked about Volcanion. I think Volcanion is really good. Wallbreaker. I think it fits on this team fairly well. Dragapult and Sneasler have amazing offensive synergy, both being very fast and just complement each other
Both
really
being able to
well.
U-turn as well.
I think they're like, along with the previous team that had Chien-Pao and Cinderace. I think Dragapult and Sneasler is like one of the best offensive cores we've seen. Hatterene, I think, complements them really well too. Being a bulky fairy type, it's got magic bounce, so it's hard to hazard stack on this team. But its only defogger is Volcanion, so if as long as you don't set up on Hatterene, I think this team could be a little weak to hazards. But I think it deals pretty well with setup sweepers too. Between Quagsire and Ditto, I mean, it's kind of hard to set up on this team. So you got unaware Quagsire and Ditto that can just copy your stat boosts. So if you don't have a good choice scarfers like to outrun Sneasler and Dragapult, it's going to be difficult to check those sort of things. And even Surge for Raichu. I mean, I know you talk about like other things benefiting from electric terrain. I still think Surge Surfer Raichu is really good. There's only like two other teams that have Quark Drive Mons. So sure, it's a little bit limiting for those teams, but Surge Surfer Raichu is still really good. You can't really even check it with a Scarfer because it's so fast. So
One sec.
yeah.
Volcanion doesn't get defog anymore,
Oh
so this
really?
team has no hazard removal, nothing at all.
Yeah.
That breaks Quagsire, that breaks Ditto. I mean, Ditto you can like either Choice Scarf or Focus Sash, so now you're just limited to Choice Scarf. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
um,
that's definitely a huge weakness. I mean, Hatterene does help out a little bit with Magic Bounce. You got to be mindful, of, potentially setting up on Hatterene. Um, And between Pincursion and Quagsire, this team can set up hazards on its own, but um, I don't know. I think a lot of picks on this team don't make sense. I also don't think Saucebook is good on this team. Like it's an okay offensive Pokemon, but it's not going to compete with Dragapult and Sneasler. I think this team just should have gone with more support for its offense rather than trying to pick like Mismagius and Flamigo and Saucebook. Because they're not
Yeah,
gonna do much when you already have good offense. So I don't know.
yeah,
That's what I think. But that being said, I think this team is still difficult to prep for. Just because it's going to be hard to check um, all the offense without worrying about Ditto setting up. I do think Ditto really helps this team a lot. I think without Ditto, this team would not be nearly as good. But Ditto is just very good for a team like this that's so offensive.
yeah. But I still think that it's not. I mean, it's like, in my opinion, the second worst team, probably just because like no hazard removal at all, except magic mounts, but like still, it's if the rocks are up, the rocks are up, and the thing is done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would give it a 6. It's just it
I,
still has some things going for it, but
I can agree with 6. I mean, I think the offensive threats are scary, but they don't really set up. Like Dragapult and Sneasler aren't gonna like be setting up that often. I mean, you can bring Dragon Dance and Swords Dance, right? But I think they can be walled, and I think this team doesn't have much of a defensive backbone at all. And so, if you just get a wall breaker in on the right turn, you can wear this team down very quickly. And as long as you can check the stuff that's fast, then you're fine. So I agree. It's
yeah,
it's like a 6.
Yeah, I'd say 6.5.
What did you say? No ideas. 6 or 7.
6.
Yeah, let's give it 6. Okay. All right. This is the last team. The Brittany Brambleghasts, coached by Bonier. Um, I think this team is good. I was prepping for this team week 1, and I think it's very concerning. They have a nice defensive core between Heatran, Amoonguss, and Screamtail, and good stuff to support that, like Slowbro, Caesar, Azumarill. The thing that makes this team really hard to prep for is it has strong priority between Azumarill with Aqua Jet and Scizor with Bullet Punch. Sure, there's not too much speed on this team. I mean, Screamtail is fast, but it's not really an offensive Pokemon. Raichu is fast, but Raichu is not the best. It's not going to come every week, but having strong priority between Scizor and Azumarill is nice. And I think it's bulky. It's got a lot of good setup potential that Screamtail can support with screens and stuff. And so it's pretty solid. The weaknesses, I would say, is if you can eliminate, one of the defensive cores of this team, like if you can eliminate Heatran or Amoonguss early on, it kind of falls apart. And as long as you can check Azumarill and Caesar, it's manageable. But I think Screamtail is an excellent support Pokemon for a team like this. Just because it can pass wishes around, it can set stuff up, and it provides good speed.
I think there are 3 problems with this team. Like 2 that are in theory they're not problems, but they could have been handled way better. I think the first one is not that big of a problem. Azumarill is a good Pokemon, no question, but without Terror, I don't. I wouldn't have picked it. I think that was it was way too costly. Then there are so many type similarities, which is, in my opinion, wasted draft picks. Like he he could have gotten so many other things. Because like you already have 2 steel types, 2 fairies, 3 poisons, 2 psychics, 2 bots, and that's just wasted potential.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing that I personally think is going to be a problem is his hazard control, is Brambleghast, Scissor, and Vivillon. But come on, Vivillon, yeah. Brambleghast is is a good Pokemon, yeah, but you can't bring it every week. When you don't bring it, you kind of force Scissor into that defog role, which it can do, but it doesn't want to be your premier defogger. So
Yeah.
that's, in my opinion, a big problem. This team is good, um, but it could have been way better. That's kind of disappointing. Could have
Mm-hmm.
been so good. But there are just those 3 things are holding this team back, I think.
Yeah. I do agree with those points. Like I think a Pokemon like Galarian Slowbro, although it's a good Pokemon, it's kind of redundant on this team. Like he's already got Psychic types, already got Poison types. So I think this slot could have been filled by something that balances it out a little bit more. Um, and yeah, I mean the hazard control, Scizor doesn't want to be defogging every week. That's an excellent point. I do want to say though that I think Dragalge is a very scary Terra Captain because it has adaptability, and it just makes adaptability like so much better of an ability, and it's already a great ability. The fact that you can terrestrialize under Dragalge is very hard to switch into. So yeah, I think Dragalge is low key a really nice fit for this team. But the biggest weaknesses are it's slow. It has strong priority, sure, but it's slow. And I think once you break a hole in this team, it exposes weaknesses, and I don't think it's too bad. But
especially Screamtail being the prime, in my eyes anyways, the prime support for this team, as it's able to kind of wish and go around pretty quickly because it does have good speed.
Yeah.
Not sure if it gets U-turn or anything, but I know it gets Baton Pass, which is just another way to easily, cheekily just move around and stuff. And I think if you kind of get through that, and then you something like Mayo said, such as Heatran or Mungus, you can start to easily chip away at this team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So
I'd give it like a 6.
Oh, okay.
6.5.
I feel like it's deserving of higher. I feel like it's not a bad team though. I feel like it's still very threatening.
Yeah, I would give it a 7.5. Not an 8. It doesn't come close to like the top teams, but it's still one of the better teams. So I would give it a 7.5.
Yeah,
I'd come up to 7.
I'd agree with that. I think 7.5 is fitting for this team. It's not a top team, but it's still one of the better teams for sure. And it's got a lot going for it. It's got some things that I don't think are good about it, but it doesn't have too many glaring weaknesses. So I think 7.5 is appropriate. That's it. Are you guys still there?
I'm here.
Okay. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. We're at an hour and a half, so.
Yeah, I think we're good.
But yeah, this has been good. These are the power rankings for the teams. I think. Let's see, which one? We've got an 8.5. Yeah, I'm just.
What are we talking about?
Is this video over now?
Yeah,
Over now?
I'm just wrapping it up. I'm just about to wrap it up.
Right.
Our best teams are Glorious Gliscors 8.5, Carolina Kuribohs 7.5, Our Game Smooth Brains 9.5. We really like that one.
Yeah, I did like that team a lot.
And BeGone Thot Kricketot 9. Florida Flamigos 8.5.
I can't believe you gave the Meowscaradas a 3.5.
Couple
What did you guys say when I
7.5s.
was gone? You just like, fuck this team?
Bro,
No. All right. I'm gonna end the recording here. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, power
So you cut
rankings.
this out of the video.
Yeah, I'm cutting this out of the video. Shut up. Bye.